This podcast contains explicit language and content and is for mature audiences only. If you're under 18, this show is more for your parents.
Ew. So, now that you have that mental image stuck in your head, put some music on and get back to doing your homework.
We are a longtime married couple who's decided to chronicle our personal adventures and share our sex-positive discussions as we navigate our way through the swinging lifestyle.
Care to join us?
Hello, everyone. I'm Mr. Jones.
And I'm Mrs. Jones, and we want to welcome you to episode 8 of the We Got a Thing podcast.
And we got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight.
Yeah, we've been busy. We are out of hibernation.
Yeah, it seems like it's been forever, but we've been up to quite a bit. So we should probably just dive right into keeping up with the Joneses.
Yep.
So it is April 24th.
It's a Friday night.
Yep.
We've been out for dinner with some of our vanilla friends, which was lovely to catch up with them. We found a new brewery in our town, and we checked it out, and we didn't realize it when we walked in, but everybody in our town was at this brewery.
Yeah,
it was packed.
Yeah, it was great. And then I asked the waitress, I said, when did you open? And she said, well, we just opened today. So that explained a lot.
She said the governor was just here. We're like, darn, we missed the governor.
Yeah.
So we had some awesome brews there. We did a flight, and we pretty much liked everything on the tasting menu.
Yeah, we need to go back
fun.
because they have a restaurant there. And we had eaten dinner before we got there, so we're going to have to go back and make an evening of it.
Yep. So now we're at home, and it's Friday night, and we are podcasting, obviously, and we have our chocolate espresso martinis to keep us going for the next few minutes.
And you have your black dress on, and your girls are staring me at the face. So when did you wear that dress? What?
This was in my naughty stocking.
Ah, okay.
Yes. So actually, I haven't even worn it yet. This is the first time I've had it on.
Oh, you have a white one like that, don't you?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, we got our picture taken at Desire with that one on.
Okay, I'll try to keep my concentration
and I'm
going
probably going
here.
to take this to Desire too. And how many more days? It's like 55 more days or something like that.
I don't know. You got the app on your phone. Yeah, 55 days till Desire.
Woohoo!
Well, we've got a lot to do between now and then.
We do.
And so let's dive right in because we had a date with a couple that are about an hour from us, and we met them and went out to dinner with them, and we brought them back here to the house.
Well, first of all, we got to confess something about them. We kind of pimped ourselves out because they contacted us through We Got a Thing, not through our personal site.
Right.
So they were just kind of saying, hey, we're kind of in your general vicinity, and they told us where they were, and we're like, hey, well, we're actually not too far from you. So
right. So we met them for dinner, and they were a great couple. They, the unique thing about this evening was that they had a babysitter, and we've never been on the clock before.
They're actually the first couple that we've ever dated that have had to have a babysitter.
Yeah, and so we had a nice dinner, and we came back to the house, and we've got a hot tub, and so we decided to get into we were sitting around drinking and talking, and I was like looking at the clock thinking I could just hear it tick, 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 tick.
Yeah, because they had an hour drive home.
Yeah. So I said, well, let's go get in the hot tub, and bathing suits are optional, and I'm not wearing mine. And that kind of got us all moving out to the hot tub. And I think we took our drinks out there.
We did.
Stayed out there for a while, and then we came inside, and it was funny because I can't remember if it was him or if it was her. One of them was saying, well, maybe we're going to have to go. And the other one was saying, well, no, we got time to stick around a bit. So that it's a little bit of a mixed signal there. But
yeah, supposedly we had like 20 minutes to play, and we all knew that wasn't going to happen. I mean, that if we played, it was going to take a little bit longer than 20 minutes.
Yeah. So we in one sense we were rushed, but in the other sense it was good that they had a babysitter because it kind of forced us through that sometimes awkward phase of transitioning from dinner conversation and talk to actually playing.
Right. So I busted out the Wheel of Foreplay app again.
Right.
That thing comes in extremely handy.
Right, and we came upstairs and had a nice time. Had a nice soft swap.
We did have a nice soft swap.
With them.
You know, I was really, really relaxed that night. I think we actually really went into that with no expectations, and I think they kind of felt the same way, and we just ended up having such comfortable conversations, and everything just kind of flowed really naturally.
Yeah, we had a good time. So we had the date with the local couple, and then we had a really special treat because we had been complaining. Okay, I had been complaining that we were having to go on this vanilla cruise. And originally we had talked about going to Trapeze, going to Fort Lauderdale and going to Trapeze before we went to Miami to go to the cruise. And then we had listeners of ours contact us and say, you might not want to go to Trapeze on Friday night.
Because it's single guy night.
Yeah.
I think we mentioned this last time.
Yeah, right. So they ended up inviting us out to dinner in Miami the evening that we flew into town. So what a fabulous evening. We really didn't get there until late.
Yeah, our plane didn't even land till like 9:15 or something like that. And then we had to, we Ubered. We had never Ubered before. So if anybody lives like in a big city, I'm sure you are familiar with Uber, but it was the coolest thing. And we had a really good experience and then kind of a shaky experience with Uber.
Yeah, the dude picked us up and it was less than half the price of a cab fare. And then he gave us a $20 discount because it was our first time. So we ended up, for us, that was pretty exciting to be able to Uber. And
I know. Well, and he was a really nice guy. He was like a grad student just doing this to earn extra money. He was driving his own car and it was a nice Acura TL. And, so he was driving well because he was driving his own car. So it wasn't like this, like completely Alice in Wonderland down through the rabbit hole experience from Fort Lauderdale to Miami.
Right. And
it was fun talking to him.
Yeah, it was only about a 25-minute ride from Fort Lauderdale to Miami. And then we didn't get to the hotel until probably 9:30 or 10 o'clock.
Oh, it was at least 10 o'clock. Yeah.
And then, so they picked us up about 10:30. And they picked us up and took us to downtown Miami. And do you remember? I don't remember. I should have looked up the name of the restaurant that we went to.
I think it was called Michael's.
Yes. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was probably 11 o'clock at night. And we ate outside. And because it had been cold weather up here, it was just really nice to be able to sit outside in the middle
heaven.
of Miami and a really chic kind of an eclectic restaurant. And
yeah, it was one of the restaurants where everything is like locally sourced, and oh my gosh, it was so cool.
And the cocktails that we had there were amazing.
Yeah,
they were different than anything we'd had before.
Everything was handcrafted.
Yeah.
Like she had a cocktail, I think it was like kind of a spring off of a Manhattan, which normally I don't like Manhattans because I'm not like a whiskey or bourbon girl, but it had a sprig of fresh rosemary, and then impaled on this sprig of fresh rosemary were these homemade maraschino cherries.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So everything was just really unique. I think we had grilled octopus as an appetizer.
Yeah.
I kind of struggled with that, but I
you
ate
did
some,
eat it.
and actually it was really good. But it just to see that tentacle just laying there on that plate, it was just like, my goodness.
There was a lot of peer pressure going on.
Yeah, there was some peer pressure.
Yeah, but you ate it, and we made a comment about those maraschino cherries, and the waiter brought us a whole
cup of them.
Oh,
they were so good.
Yeah, really great evening, really great couple, and.
So they were trying to take us out to we went to this place. It was a speakeasy and it was a Friday night. You would think that everything would be happening, but it was so late by this time because we just lingered over dinner and actually shut the restaurant down. So they were trying to kind of show us a couple other places in Miami, and everything was just either already closed because I think it was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning at this point.
Yeah.
So we ended up going to like 3 or 4 places, and either they were dead or they were closed. So we ended up standing on the sidewalk, just having this awesome conversation about going to lifestyle clubs and just all kinds of events that they had done together. And we were sharing events that we had done together. And it was so much fun.
Yeah. The whole evening was just, I don't want to overstate it, but it was just kind of magical. It was Miami, it was warm weather. And, again, we've talked about this before, but here's these people we've never met before. And, they invited us out and they picked us up and they picked out the restaurant, and we had such a good time and such good conversation. And you two ladies had your heels on, and we were standing there on the sidewalk talking till late into the early morning hours. So it was it was a lot of fun, and it really helped kick off our vacation on the right note.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, our new friends in Miami, for showing us the ropes down there.
Yes, that's right. And if you're back into DC, we look forward to returning the favor.
And actually, just FYI, we booked the same cruise for next spring break. So we'll see you next year.
Yeah, that's right. We'll be back to Miami at the end of March next year. So that leads us to our cruise.
Yes, our vanilla cruise turned out to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, I have to admit. So the cruise we went on, we went on Celebrity.
Yeah.
And this is the first time we had been on Celebrity. We normally
we're Royal Caribbean people
Caribbean.
Normally.
Yeah, so Celebrity is a little bit. You chose well, because the entertainment was more adult oriented, and like you said, you didn't see Shrek walking around every corner.
I love Shrek, but I didn't really miss him this time.
Yeah. And the bars were awesome, and the entertainment was awesome. I mean,
the bars were entertainment.
Yes.
The bartenders were incredible. They would put on a show and they'd make a martini.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
It was so much fun.
So anyway, it started out we made a big deal out of, we were going to wear our black rings and see if we could meet other swingers. The long and short of it is,
we think we might have met one or met a couple, but it was at the very end of the week and we couldn't find him again.
Yeah. But anyway, they did notice our rings, the first couple but they didn't know what they were, the significance of. But anyway, we were on the back of the boat during the sail away.
It was called the Sunset Bar. It was on the 14th deck. It was just perfect.
It was like 5:00.
Could not have been nicer weather.
Yeah, and we were there having a drink, and we ended up just being with a couple right next to us. And I said something to her about where they were from and if it was their first cruise, and we talked to them for a while, and they were a very attractive couple, and we probably talked to them for about an hour.
Yeah.
And we exchanged names and thought, oh, well, this is great. Maybe we'll run into them again. And then, was it that night?
It was that night.
Yeah, so that night, we had open seating dining. And we went down to the dining room, and we just said, we're here for a table for two. And how many people are on this ship?
Like over 3,000.
Yeah, 3,000 people in the ship. And so we go down there, and they take us to a table for two. And then sitting right next to us was this couple that we met.
It was fate.
Yeah, it was fate. And I said, aren't you the couple that we met? And so then we hit it off again, and we ended up, having dinner conversation. And basically, we spent the entire week.
Yeah, hanging out with them. I thought Mr. Jones was going to try to convert them.
Well,
I wouldn't have minded.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Okay.
They were very attractive.
They were.
Very attractive. And
she was smitten with you because she was a spitfire and you gave her right back to her.
That's right.
She liked that.
She and I had a battle of the
She
wits.
flipped him off about, 20 times during the week.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't that, it was fuck you.
Yeah.
In her little Long Island accent.
Yeah.
She was adorable.
Yeah, they were from New York, and we kind of hit it off, and we found out we had a lot in common. And yeah. Oh, so we started talking about vacations, and I just threw out that we had been to Desire, which was a clothing optional, and that really piqued their interest. And Desire seems to be, especially when you're on vacation, it's that safe entry point into these sorts of conversations. And so naturally, they started asking questions about Desire, and we kind of teased them. We said, well, we're going to give you one story a night, depending on how this relationship goes through the week. And we were very patient. I didn't try to convert them.
Well, they hung with us all week, so you didn't scare them off.
Yeah. But we did have some,
we had some good conversations.
Yeah. She was talking about how large he was, and then that intrigued you. And then we convinced her to take a picture of him because it was his birthday, one of the nights. And
so I got to see a picture of him in his birthday suit.
Right. And then when we were in St. Martin, and you took your top off, and I took a picture of you, then I got to show him a picture of you with your top off. So the conversation was very adult
spicy
and spicy
Yes.
and mature, but we never really got to the point, and I didn't want to force the issue. I mean, it was just I was just enjoying being with them, and the relationship kind of just went its own way. But they were a whole lot of fun, and they're gonna come down, I think, this summer and spend a weekend with us. So we'll see. Maybe there's
Stay
potential
tuned,
there.
right?
Yeah.
So then, like the second to the last night, they turned the wine bar into this really cool nightclub, and the wine bar was really, really beautiful. It was like all the dark red leather, and the walls were dark and dark wood and everything. So it was really dark in there, and they set up like the big bird cage and had dancers in the bird cage, and the DJ was really playing some cool music. So we were all in there dancing, and there was this couple in there about our age, really attractive couple, and this lady had just let her hair down, and she was just really enjoying dancing.
She was tall.
She was
very
tall.
tall.
She was a tall, beautiful blonde,
Thin
very
blonde.
willow-like, just
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, she just kind of took over the dance floor.
She did.
And then coincidentally, the other couple that we were just talking about, they were there also. And this tall blonde lady got up on top of the coffee table and started dancing. And then the couple that we met from New York, she got up and started dancing with her.
And the boat was actually moving that night. Most of the time that we were in really calm water, but the boat was actually rocking that night. So you've been drinking, you're dancing, and then you climb on top of a coffee table. Can you just imagine where the story's going?
Right. So at some point in time, the blonde of the couple, she fell.
She lost her balance and went backwards.
And she fell right into me, and I caught her. And at first I thought it was an accident. And
it was an accident.
And didn't think anything
But she really enjoyed being caught.
Yeah. So anyway, we enjoyed dancing. I caught her. We had some small talk right there. And then later we went to the martini bar. So you need to talk about the martini bar, because you were really, I mean, we both really enjoyed the martini bar. So describe the martini bar on this ship.
So the martini bar was oval shaped, and it went all the way around, and then there was like an island in the middle where they had all the bottles of liquor, so the bartenders could go all the way around inside this oval. Well, the countertop, like the bar part that they would set the drinks on, it was marble on the outside, but then on the inside, like the bulk of the bar area where they would set stuff was metal, and it was kind of like the old-fashioned freezers where, you know, how the frost would build up and you'd have to unplug them and defrost them. So it was metal, and there must have been like coils underneath of it, because they would like turn on the coils like an hour before the bar would open, and that metal would get all frosty. So they would set the martini glasses down on this frosty cold metal, and your drink would stay cold. Right. It was really, really cool. And then you could like etch things in the frost. So we were like writing dirty things in the frost with like our straws and toothpicks and stuff.
Yeah.
And
yeah. And they were, and the bartenders were entertainers as well. So they were mixing drinks, and they were flipping the martini glasses.
I mean, like
around.
big 1 liter bottle of Grey Goose vodka. They could flip that sucker like 10 feet up in the air and catch it. And it was just amazing.
Right. So anyway, after the blonde fell into my arms, and then we went back to the martini bar. And the couple that we met from New York had gone off, and they had talked to another couple. And I think you looked over to the couple, and you said something about them. They were either looking our way or
well, before she got up on the coffee table and was dancing, and we were just all dancing on the dance floor, she kept looking over at me and smiling.
Right.
And I felt like she was kind of flirting with me. And I'm like, this kind of feels like more of a lifestyle kind of event, because I had a really attractive lady like making eye contact with me and flirting, and she was really attractive too. And I was like, I kind of like this.
So then we were at the martini bar.
So, and then like when I forgot to tell you guys, this was a formal night, and Mr. Jones had his tuxedo on. So when he caught her, it was just like total James Bond. You were just totally like saving the day. It was so awesome. So I thought that was really hot that you caught her.
Oh, thank you.
And it was just like, you know how James Bond will like, you know, dive off of a cliff and land, and he just gets up and he brushes his sleeve off. That's exactly how you were. You just caught her in your tuxedo, and you kind of just stood up and straightened your
Picked
lapel.
my martini back up.
Yeah, right. Picked your martini back up and just kept dancing. Yeah. It was awesome.
So anyway, after that, we went to the martini bar, and you looked across the bar, and you noticed
I made eye contact with her
and
again.
You said, "There's an attractive couple over there," and I said, "Well, let's go talk to them." So we got up, we went around to the other side of the bar, and of course I had an opening line because I had caught her on the dance floor. So I can't remember exactly what I said. But
It was smooth though, honey.
yeah, so she turned around and started talking with us. And this is really interesting because, you know, one of the first things she said, and her husband was there, she said, you know, I have to tell you, you all are an extremely attractive couple. Now, keep in mind, this is Vanilla Cruise.
Right.
And when she said that, I thought, well, gosh, we must be giving off some sort of a vibe, or are they lifestylers?
Because she had already been flirting with me.
Right.
There was something going on there.
Right.
But this was the second to the last night.
I know, which was too bad. But anyway, we talked to them for a long while,
Mm-hmm.
and they had their kids with them.
Right.
But they said, hey, are you guys going to be back here tomorrow night? And we said, yeah, we'll probably be back at the Martini Bar tomorrow night. She said, okay, well, we're going to ditch our kids and we'll come back and meet you, and we'd love to talk to you some more. Well, they were from Georgia.
Right.
And when we said goodbye to them, she kissed me. And, you know, so it was almost like a lifestyle.
It was.
Sort of a thing.
And we kissed each other on the cheeks. And then I said, I got the perfect way to figure out if they're in the lifestyle because they lived in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask them. I didn't think of this until after, like, we were headed back to our stateroom. I should have asked them if they had ever been to Trapeze.
No, but see, that was going to be your opening line the last night.
Right,
because you
right.
said, well, when we see them, how we can start talking about the lifestyle is I can mention Trapeze to see if they've ever been there before.
Right, or at least heard of it.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
No, we didn't see him again.
They didn't show up.
And that's one of the things I hear, you know, when we talk to people that have been on the swinger cruises, they say that's one of the biggest challenges is that they'll run into a couple that they're really attracted to, and they won't get their stateroom number or whatever, and they think, okay, well, we'll run into them again. We have all week, and then they don't ever see them.
No, but there's one big difference here. They had their teenage kids with them.
I know.
So undoubtedly,
I know.
they were, and it was the last night of the cruise.
Right, so they were packing.
With their family, and they
I
were packing,
know.
and so we missed an opportunity.
We did miss an opportunity because they were both very attractive.
So between those two couples, I mean, I thought that it was a very interesting vanilla cruise.
It was.
And the couple from New York is going to come down and spend a weekend with us this summer.
We have the love of beer in common. We did.
Yeah, we did
a fun pub crawl in San Juan.
Oh my gosh, that was fun.
Our ship didn't get into San Juan until like 3:30, so you can't really like do a beach day. So Mr. Jones and I had decided that we would just try to find a couple like bars to go to, and then I picked out a restaurant on Yelp that I wanted to have dinner at, so we just eat dinner out instead of going back to the ship. So then when we ran into this other couple, they actually brew their own beer.
From New York. Yeah, the New York couple. Yeah, they brew their own beer. Right.
So, you know, they had planned on doing the exact same thing. And she's like, well, what places did you pick out? Well, what places did you pick out? So we decided to go to this one brewery that was actually, you could see it from the pier. And so we got there and we just started.
It was
Old Harbor Brewery. So right. Yeah, if you ever go to San Juan, that was a good place to start. So then we just started asking people in there, where are you going next? You know, we found some local people. Where's a good place to go? And we found a couple pubs that were off the beaten path that I didn't even see on Yelp.
Right.
And we're like, okay, well, it's only, you know, we knew we were never going to be more than like 10 blocks from the ship. So we figured, you know, what's the harm?
Right.
So we trudged on up there and ended up having the best time.
Oh my gosh, we had a good time. We went to 3 different bars, and then next to one of the bars, there was a little, I don't know if it was a tapas bar, there was a restaurant there, but somebody said, hey, they've got really great fried
rice and bean balls. And we're like, what the hell is that? So we're eating rice balls?
So one of the guys, the husband of the couple from New York, he ran next door and ordered a bag of them and came back and brought them back, and they were so good.
They were amazing.
And in the meantime, we were meeting everybody in the bar, and none of them were from the ship.
No.
You know, they were all Americans, but they were down there on vacation, and the bartenders were local, and they were letting us come behind the bar and take pictures of ourselves in front of the taps. And
oh my gosh.
It
Thought
was
we
so
were going to get
fun.
thrown out.
And then she, you know, the police there in San Juan drive around on golf carts, and she jumped up on the golf cart and said, hey, can I put your hat on? I want to take a picture. And the cop didn't know what to do. He was kind of taken aback.
You got to remember, this girl's from Long Island, so she's like fearless.
Yeah, and had been drinking.
Yes, we have been drinking a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we had so much fun that night. So
We got it back to the ship just in time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we really had a good time, and we'll talk more about this later in the podcast with our question about, cruising with vanilla people. We're going to go again next year.
We are. We actually booked the same cruise.
Ship.
So
yeah, that was a lot of fun.
yeah.
So anyway, the last thing that we want to tell you that we did was the house party. So that was the last day of the cruise. We had to fly because you booked the Southwest airline.
I know.
Sorry
to crack on Southwest Airline.
Oh my gosh, we had to fly
it was not good.
We had to fly from Fort Lauderdale to Houston, Texas, and then from Houston to Washington D.C.
And we couldn't check in because we were on the ship,
right?
And so we couldn't check in early. So we were in the last
right.
zone or whatever they call them.
Yeah.
So we couldn't sit together either time.
Zone Z.
I was sitting between two guys from Fort Lauderdale to Houston. It was it's a 3Z airplane. So I'm in the middle, of course, because we're the last ones on. And the two guys had both armrests. Not only did I have to sit with my arms crossed, I had to sit with my shoulders crooked because my shoulders did not fit between their shoulders.
Right.
I was miserable, and I was pretty bitchy too.
Right. And I was sitting next to this probably 10-year-old kid, and his mom was like two aisles back and on the other side, and he kept going, "Mom, Mom." And he was having problems with his phone. Finally, I said, "Give me that thing. I can fix it. What's the problem?" But at any rate, so we digress. But we had been invited to this house party.
And we weren't sure if we were going to be able to make it because it was that night that we got off the ship.
It was the night that we flew back. And so we landed at National Airport at 6:30.
The party started at 8.
And we had to go to economy parking. We had to pick up our car. We had to drive home. We had to shower. We had to change. And I'm texting them saying, "We're on our way. We're going to be there by 9:30. And fortunately, the party was only about 20 minutes from our house. And the couple that was hosting, we had been out on a dinner date with a few months ago. And we'd really decided that we wanted to go because there was a couple there that we had played with before that was going to attend. And so we said, okay, well, at least we know they'll
they don't live very close. So we
right.
were really excited about the opportunity to see them.
Right. So fortunately, our flights were all on time and there was no traffic, and we got home and we got changed and we got to the party just after 9:30, which is when they were going to, we were the last ones there. There was another couple that walked up to the door the same time.
But we beat them in the door.
Yeah.
They were ahead of us, but we managed to park closer to the front door. We got in the door before they did.
Right. So this is our second house party, but this was our really first real house party because I would say, how many couples do you think were there?
This time, he said that 22 couples RSVP.
And I have to say, first of all, the hosts were absolutely amazing.
They knew what they were doing.
I mean, they obviously had done this before.
First of all, the home was beautiful.
Oh my gosh.
And then they had every room had a purpose.
Right.
They completely transformed every room in their house. It was so wonderful.
Right. They had food, they had drinks. They walked us around and introduced us, and they gave us a tour. We went downstairs, and they had a dungeon room set up in their basement. He had a massage table down there. He's a photographer, so he had a little studio set up, down there that looked like he could use if you wanted him to. The middle level was where most of the socializing was going on. There was a table that had food all over it, and then in the kitchen and the island area, there was a bar. And people were just mingling on the first floor. And then he took us upstairs. And I would say that there's 3 or 4 bedrooms upstairs.
4 bedrooms.
4 bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
But the amazing bedroom was the master bedroom where they had their master bed. But then they had a sitting room, which was elevated about a foot or so. So you had to step up into that room.
Right.
And they had mattresses from wall to wall.
There were 6 queen size arrow bed mattresses that fit. The sunroom was almost like a huge alcove,
right,
that you stepped up into, and 6 queen size arrow bed mattresses fit perfectly in there.
Right, and they had them all covered with sheets, and they had music, and they had candles, and they had little bowls with lube and condoms, and they had
towels and oh my gosh, they had thought of everything
that you could think of. And they called that little room
the moon bounce,
the bounce house.
Yeah,
the bounce house. because they were all arrow beds. But anyway, we got down. We met everybody. We kind of walked around and we talked for a while.
But we were late.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that. I don't know. Especially, I guess, with our personalities, that kind of puts you at somewhat of a disadvantage because I think I don't really think people there were very cliquish, but I think they just had an opportunity to already meet each other.
Right.
So I think they did a really good job with the guest list too.
Yeah, but I think if there were 20 couples there, I think we met probably half the people there.
Oh yeah, at least.
So we had enough time to kind of walk around and chat with people and meet people, and people had already been in the dungeon and had come back upstairs.
Right. I mean, there were already people scantily clad at that point.
Yeah.
So that I could tell that we kind of walked in after things had begun.
Right.
But
so we got drinks and we walked around and we hooked up. Well, we started talking with the couple that we had played with before, and the ironic thing about this couple is this was the first no kissing couple that we played with.
Right.
And they don't have that rule anymore.
Hallelujah.
Right. Right.
More to follow.
Yeah. So, and then there was another couple that
they knew somehow. They had met at a different event.
And they actually lived pretty close to us, but
very close to us.
We didn't know them, and the couple that we knew them. And so the six of us started talking, and fortunately the lady from the couple that we played with before is very
outgoing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think she had kind of already like
masterminded the evening,
mapped this out in her mind, and before we knew it, and the other couple that we met, they were both attractive, and so before we knew it, she said, "Hey, why don't we go?
We're going upstairs. Come on,
upstairs. Do you all want to go?" And we said, "Sure." That's the whole point.
So the group play was going on in the master bedroom with the big bounce house and and of course they had the king size bed that they actually slept on.
Right.
That was available for play. So the majority of the people were actually in that room, and then the three guest rooms were set up for more of a private play area. So the six of us ended up going into one after we kind of watched the group play for a few minutes. We went into one of the guest bedrooms.
The six of us.
Yeah, the six of us did.
And it was amazing.
It was our first sixsome.
I mean, you three ladies, I mean, I can't even remember how it started, but three of you ended up with your clothes off, and I've seen you with one other woman before, but to see you
with all three of us, that was really fun.
And let me see the lady.
I can't even remember how it all played out.
Well, the lady that we just met, she was laying on her back. You were kissing her.
I was kissing her.
And the lady that we had played with before, she went down on the other lady.
Right.
And the three of us guys were just kind of standing there going, watching, and it was some kind of hot, and everybody was. I
don't think you guys stood there and watched for long, because I know there were some hands on me pretty much the whole time.
Yeah. We were on the outskirts. We were just kind of touching and feeling, and maybe some kissing.
Wait a minute, I know how things started, because we all had to get undressed. And as I was getting undressed, the guy that we had played with before that I had never had the opportunity to kiss said, "Let me help you with that." And he was helping me get my dress off and undo my bra. And then he turned me around and he said, "Now it's time to do this." And he kissed me.
Yeah.
And so we played with them. I think like November was the first time we played with them.
It was before we went to Desire.
Yeah.
November, yeah.
So I've been waiting a long time to kiss him, and it was totally worth the wait.
Yeah.
That was fun.
That's right. And
that was how it started.
Yeah, and she and I kissed too, which really confirms a lot of what we talked about in episode 5, when we talked about full swap and soft swap, and we talked about being able to kiss. And oh my gosh, what a difference that makes, because I was able to kind of get lost in her and not think about, everything else that was going on.
And you know what else was nice about it is that we've been with them several times now. So now we're comfortable with them, and it was easy to start kissing them. It wasn't, that whole, I've never even touched this person before, and now I'm kissing them, and that the whole unknown thing, because this
Right.
was a little more familiar, so it was easier to get in the groove, and then and so it made it easier to transition to that other couple, because that other couple, they were
Right.
kissing on their own.
Right, but and you had an opportunity to talk to the gentleman from the third couple too before we
Right.
went in the room to
Right.
say this is a soft swap session, and
Right.
kind of communicate with everybody that we're all on the same page. And then after that,
I don't think they had played all that much before, so he really wanted to make sure that he understood everybody's boundaries,
which was good.
Yes,
because,
it was good.
because I think that gave them the level of comfort that they could just relax,
Right.
enjoy themselves, and again, just watching the three of you and then participating the way that we were, and then I think as we began to break apart into twosomes, I ended up with the woman that we had played with before, and she went down on me.
Right, and I ended up with a new guy.
Right, and he went down on you.
Yeah, and then I went down on him.
Right, but when she went down on me, almost immediately again, and this has happened to me like 2 or 3 times, and within a minute, I was like, "You got to slow down," and and she kind of smiled and she said, "Oh, you're a little worked up, are you?" And I have to give her 100% of the credit, because she disengaged from me and she went over to the other guy and started messing around with him. And that gave me about 5 minutes to relax and let things settle down. And then when she came back to me, she came right back to me and started again. And then we were fine. And then I was able to go. But it must be, what I'm learning is that this watching you, especially with other women, in this case, 2 other women, that just amps me up so much that I am just ready to...
Because it couldn't have been that it had been so long since you had sex, because we had a whole lot of sex on that cruise ship.
Yeah. No. Oh, yeah, we didn't even talk about that.
No, we didn't. Oh, we'll have to go back.
We'll come back to that. Anyway, the 6 of us ended up just switching back and forth, and a sixsome is so much less pressure than a foursome.
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought it would be kind of confusing.
Because when I got a little bit worked up and she disengaged from me, she was able to go over to the other guy, and I was just watching. And
she got down. I was laying on the bed, and he was standing by the side of the bed, and he was going down on me.
Right.
And so she got down on her hands and knees, and because he was leaning over the bed, and she got underneath him and started giving him a blowjob while he was going down on me. And I didn't even realize it, because my eyes were rolling back in my head, because he was doing a really good job.
Right.
So after he finished, I looked and I'm like, hey, I know her. She's down on the floor underneath him. She's climbing back up.
Right. But there was a lot of that. There was a lot of switching around, and it was very relaxed. And again, I didn't feel a lot of pressure, because there's 6 people. And so people were just kind of touching and kissing and doing whatever and moving around, and it was very relaxed, and I think that really helped. I mean, I think everybody had a really good time.
Yeah.
And, we ended up soft swapping for a long time, and I went down on her, she went down on me. We kissed a lot, which was really nice. And then
eventually the couple that we had just met, they eventually went off on their own. I think they went into one of the other bedrooms, because I think the other 2 bedrooms were still empty.
Well, no, see, they started full fucking each other before the 4 of us went back.
Is that what they were doing, like when they were at the foot of the bed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw him over there, but I would...
Yeah.
Distracted.
So he was fucking her, his wife, and then I was still with the other woman, and you were still with the other guy. And so I think they finished, and they left the room, and then there was just the 4 of us. And then after we finished the soft swap, well, I guess there was some sort of a conversation that I kind of got halfway involved in, because you had told me that there was an opportunity for
full swap. Yeah. Because they have... Not only have they started kissing, they're actually a full swap couple.
Yeah, so
now.
They leapfrogged us.
Yeah, I know.
First, when we played with them, they were a no kissing couple.
Well, they were like virgins.
Yeah.
We were the first couple they ever played with.
Yeah, so not only do they kiss, but they've full swapped like 2 or 3 times. And
you and I are slow. What can I say?
Yeah. So I think there was maybe some discussion there about maybe a full swap opportunity, and who knows, maybe that's the right couple.
I think that might, I think they could definitely be the right couple, but it wasn't the right setting because that third couple was still there, and they kind of disappeared on us, and we didn't even get a chance to say goodnight to them. I think they had to go home.
Right.
So we, that was kind of an unknown, and
right.
There was a lot of noise coming from the other room,
well, okay.
which some of the noise was really hot, and some of it was very pornish.
Okay, so let's talk about the dynamic in the room. So with 20-something couples, first of all, the host and the hostess were absolutely magnificent.
Yeah, they were so gracious, and they were making sure everybody was engaged in something,
exactly,
and had everything they needed.
But the noise that was coming from the bounce house was definitely sounded like a porn movie, and so I think a lot of it was, or some of it was acting. Maybe some of it was show.
That way.
A lot of it was show.
A lot of it was really hot. I mean, there was some genuine hotness going on in there.
Yeah.
But I think it was one lady. You could just pretty much tell it was always the same voice, and it was
right.
Nobody has an orgasm for that long. It was like a half an hour.
Right.
I don't know.
And I think we started giggling.
Yeah.
About that in our room.
I know. It was kind of distracting.
Yeah.
Because it was overdone.
Right. So anyway, the six of us finished up, and we came back downstairs half dressed, and walked around and got something to eat, and talked to some other people, and then we didn't stay much longer than that, and we left home. But
we had been up early. Oh, yeah, it was a long day.
But it was a major success.
I know,
and I hope
it was an awesome party.
I hope we get invited back, and if we ever get to host a party here in our house,
well, now we know how to do it.
Yeah, we know how to do it. Yeah. So anyway, that was our house party. Did we miss anything? I guess that's...
I don't know. With the house party? No.
Yeah, with the house party or anything
I think we
else.
both have some snapshots from the house party that we'll share later.
We'll talk about that a little later.
Do you want to back up and talk about cruise ship sex?
Yeah.
Oh, we had some good sex on the cruise ship.
Yeah, we had...
I am like a crazy person when I go to book a cruise. Not only do I have to like pick out the perfect ship and the cruise line I feel comfortable with, and make sure the ports are the ports that we want to visit, I have to get exactly the right cabin. We made the mistake of getting a balcony cabin years and years ago, and they always say once you get a balcony, you can't go back to an inside stateroom, and that is so true. We really enjoy our balcony. We always get room service in the morning, and all we get is a pot of coffee, and they take it out and put it on our balcony, and that's just the most amazing way to wake up in the morning.
Right.
But it's also the best place to have sex.
Right.
So I picked out this balcony. Some of the cruise ships have like these humps on the side. They kind of stick out a little bit. So I picked a balcony kind of on the side of this hump. And what ends up happening is it makes like every other balcony in that area of the ship have an extra, extra deep balcony. So it's extra, extra private.
Right. So it had nice walls and a nice roof over top of us.
Yeah.
Nice lounge chairs.
2 really nice lounge chairs and a table big enough that you could actually have a full breakfast out there.
Right.
It was amazing.
I'm just going to jump right to the one that was most memorable.
Okay, you go right ahead.
You brought your glass dildo.
I did.
And you brought your what's the thing that looks like a tongue?
Be Curious.
Yeah, your Be Curious toy, which is your vibrator.
Yeah.
And you sat in your chair and you used them both on yourself at the same time, and you made quite a mess on the balcony. You squirted all over the place.
It was embarrassing.
No, it was hot.
Yeah. Okay. You think it was hot?
Depending on your perspective.
Yeah. Well, it was awesome.
Well, and then there is one other story we have to tell. So, the roof of the balcony is metal, and the walls are metal. And it's a big balcony. And so the sounds echo. And so the first time we were out there and you started moaning, and you were playing with yourself, and you started moaning because you were getting close to orgasm.
And the guy next door walks out.
The guy next door walks out of his balcony.
And he wasn't peeking around, but we could see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I've got to figure out a way to shut you up.
So Mr. Jones got up out of his chair and he walked over and he stuck his cock in my mouth.
And it worked like a charm.
It did.
So all of a sudden the sounds were muffled and I was getting a little bit out of it.
Yeah, I didn't mind.
Yeah.
But I knew that's what you did.
Yeah. So the balcony sex was amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess we had sex in our bed too.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So,
Oh, yeah. So I learned I have a 2 martini limit after dinner. One night we stayed at the martini bar way too long. We shut it down and I ended up having 3 martinis. So Mr. Jones tells me we had some really amazing sex that night. And I pretty much just have to trust him on that.
oh my gosh, that's right. That's right.
I remember snippets from it.
No, because you were saying like, fuck me harder. And I'm like, wow, I don't usually hear that. I must be really good. And then the next morning, you didn't remember.
The next morning, I think I was still drunk because, I told you we have the room service guy bring us coffee. Well, you have to check like this half-hour window that you want your coffee in. And we're early risers, so we always check the 7 o'clock box. Well, that's not good after you've had 3 martinis the night before, because what happens is when he knocks on the door, Mr. Jones gets up and puts on a pair of shorts, and I run into the bathroom because I'm there naked and I'm not going to lay there when they bring in the coffee. So the door knocks on the door, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get up. So I hop out of bed and I ran right into the wall.
Yeah, but you know what? The good thing about that trip, though, with Grey Goose, you didn't really...
Never had a hangover.
You didn't have a hangover.
Yeah.
You were still drunk.
Yeah, we had this awesome premium drink package, and so it was basically all-inclusive drinks and alcohol and everything. So, and it was all top shelf, so everything we drank had Grey Goose in it, and yeah, no headaches to be had, but you do wake up drunk the next morning.
So sorry we got that a little bit out of order,
Yeah.
but you squirting all over the balcony and towel. I mean, it was all over chairs. It was all over the floor. It was all over everything.
Dang.
So it was pretty good.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that pretty much gets you up to date with keeping up with the Joneses. We've been extremely busy. So we are going to transition into segment 2. In just a minute, we're going to talk about CatalystCon. There were swingers there. There were polyamorous people there. There were gay, lesbian, transgender. It was the whole gamut of the melting pot of sex positivity, non-monogamy. So it wasn't just swingers.
Actually, swingers was kind of a small part of it.
Right. And there were a couple reasons we decided to go. First of all, it's in Washington, D.C., so we didn't have it. It wasn't costly for us to travel there. It's right in our backyard. And then Life on the Swing Set was going to be doing a podcast from there.
And Ending the Sexual Dark Age.
Ending the Sexual Dark Age, and we're both fans of those shows. And then there were a couple of speakers that were speaking that really looked like the sessions were interesting that we wanted to attend. And then the bottom line is we just wanted to put ourselves in a position of interacting with these different genres, for lack of a better term, of sexual positivity, just to see, just from a personal aspect and from our relationship aspect, and then selfishly from podcasting, because we knew that it was going to give us, probably something to talk about as well. So, how do we want to? I guess the overall, or the Life on the Swing Set session, they just did a live podcast, and so we were able to meet Cooper. And those of you who have listened to episode 6, we interviewed Cooper, but we had never met Cooper Beckett before, so it gave us an opportunity to meet him
and to watch them do their podcast. And just, I mean, they've been together for a while as
5
a group.
years, yeah.
So, just the effortless camaraderie and the flow of their podcast, they just make it look so darn easy.
Right. So it was good to meet Cooper and Ginger and Dylan and Techno Geisha and all of their support crew and their partners and spouses, and so we really enjoyed sitting in on their session, and then sitting in on the session with JV and Shara from Ending the Sexual Dark Age. It was good to meet them, and kind of what was they were promoting. They interviewed the guy from the private gym. Yeah, and I'll put a link to the private gym on there. It's a guy who does this business about like Kegel exercises or something for men,
right?
Where you actually put a weight on the end of your cock and you do exercises or something. But anyway, it was like a regular conference because they had breakout sessions, and then they had vendors in a room, and one of the vendors was this guy that Ending the Sexual Dark Age.
He sponsored a cocktail party on Saturday night. His business did, so
right.
It was pretty fun.
And then we all went to lunch together, so we had a fun lunch. I forget where we ended up going, but it was Bar Louie.
Oh yeah, it was Bar Louie.
Yeah.
And there was probably, I don't know, at least 12, 15 of us that went to lunch together, and that was fun, meeting new people. We met a couple from Toronto. We met a couple from Michigan.
Yep. New England.
Yeah, New England.
Yeah.
So just had fun, and they were all, most of them were affiliated with Life on the Swing set, but this one couple, they were just kind of there on their own, right? And they were at the bar when we walked in, and we saw they were wearing the lanyard with the pass for the conference, and we were like, "Hey, come have lunch with us."
They were from Michigan.
Yeah, they were the couple from Michigan.
Right.
They were a cute young couple, and actually, I think they lived in the Washington D.C. area for a while,
right,
before they moved to Michigan. I think they went to college,
right,
near D.C.
Oh, and the one thing that we forgot was we were in the elevator, and there was another lady in the elevator, and I think we said hello to her.
Yeah, so it's just the three of us riding down from our hotel room.
Right, and we got off to go to that cocktail party. That's what made me think of it. And she came up to me and she said, "Are you Mr. and Mrs. Jones?"
We were like, "What?
What?" No? Oh, yes.
Because we had taken some business cards. We got a thing, business cards, but we hadn't really promoted who we were. We were just a couple at the conference.
Yeah, she said, "I recognized your laugh. We listened to your podcast," and that was really
weird.
At first, it caught me off guard. I was just confused because I'm like, where's this coming from? And then when she explained it, then I felt kind of flattered, that she recognized us. And then she pulled her husband over and she said, "It's them." It's them. I'm like, "What?" It's no big deal. So we ended up talking to them for a while.
Yeah,
and
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and that was fun. And
it's funny to meet somebody like that, and they know so much about us.
Right, because we have to say, well, have you listened to all of our episodes? Because we don't.
And they had.
Yeah, they had. So we didn't want to repeat ourselves.
Right.
And so we basically have to just listen, to their story, which is what we want.
Yeah, they had a good story.
Anyway, well, one of the things that was a highlight. Well, there's two things that we want to talk about. I guess, do you want to talk about the session we went to first, or do you want to talk about the party?
Let's talk about the sessions and then save the party for the end. Okay. So the first session we went to was a session on consensual non-monogamy, and the lady that presented it, she goes by Dr. Zana. She's a professor at NYU,
right,
in the psychology department, and she's done a lot of studies on just different types of consensual non-monogamy and comparing people in that sample to the general population, just different benchmarks. And a couple of the things that she pointed out that I found really interesting.
And we're going to put a link to her website and to this presentation, because a lot of what we're going to talk about now is sourced by her research and the surveys that she's done. So there is some science behind it. So we're just going to talk about kind of what she presented, but then we'll give you a link if you want to go back and look at the full presentation to see what her sources were.
So the first thing that she said that I thought was really interesting is that women, and this is just women in general, women tend to have more socially malleable ideas of their sexuality than men do. And I felt that really interesting because women always seem to be much more conservative about their sexuality. But, she's saying the exact opposite, that we're more open to different ways of expressing our sexuality than men are.
Right.
I didn't really see that one coming. Did you?
Well, yeah. I mean, I could have guessed that. Yeah. We're a little bit uptight when it comes to that.
What, men are?
Yeah.
See, I don't get that.
Well, I mean, the whole thing about women being with other women and finding another woman beautiful. I mean, a man doesn't do that.
Right. Okay.
We're homophobic for the most part.
Yeah.
And only focused on and our egos. Our egos are so fragile that to take a risk and have a thought like that, I think is a little bit too risky for most men.
Huh.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. And then she said that raw sexual desire thrives on novelty, and that's why swinging is so, I guess, attractive to some people, because it's the novelty of the different experiences, not necessarily that you're going to have better sex with somebody else, but just because it's different.
Right.
That really can keep your libido strong.
Right. Right.
So I thought that was pretty cool. And then the other thing I thought was cool was that it says slightly more women swingers achieve orgasm than men.
And I didn't find that surprising.
But see, I was just, when she says achieve orgasm, I'm not thinking, okay, yeah, I can have multiple orgasms in one night.
6, 8,
Well,
10.
I don't really count them, but I know I usually have more than one if it's a good night.
Yes.
So I'm not really counting that. I'm just saying at some point during the night, I have an orgasm.
Yes.
Well, at some time during the night, you're going to have an orgasm. It might not be, you might hold back and wait till the end.
I totally get that, because it's for most men. Well, I'm not going to say most. For some men, it's a performance issue. I mean, there's a lot of pressure when there's a stranger in the room, or there's 2 people or 4 people, or there's a group. A lot of guys can internalize that stress and not be able to perform. So I'm not surprised by that at all. I mean, unfortunately, I have the opposite problem.
Slow down.
Yeah, slow down there. Whoa. It's not going to take me long. But no, that doesn't surprise me at all. And I've heard other people and other podcasters, talk about that as well. And even, some podcasters will say, I've never had this problem before and all of a sudden I'm in this situation and the woman is beautiful and I'm looking down and I'm having a conversation with my dick, because it's I'm like, this is what you've been waiting for. What's going on here? So that I don't know, that doesn't surprise me.
Okay, so like we're swingers and we're like completely immersed in this part of society now. But what about like the general population, like our vanilla friends? Do you think our vanilla friends would think that or would be surprised by that?
Yeah.
I mean, because
yeah.
like you read in magazines like normal magazines
Yeah,
about
you're right.
how, some women can never ever have an orgasm.
Right.
And all men want to do is have sex.
Yes.
So it just seems counterintuitive.
Yes,
to
from
me.
the outside world, I would agree. Yep.
So the other thing she said tons of things. And again, if you find this stuff intriguing, her lecture notes were fantastic. Yeah. Just tons and tons of data. And, I'm a data person, so I thought it was very cool. But anyway, she said swingers are happier in life and in marriage, both individually and as a couple, more so than the general population.
Right.
So, not only as a couple are you happier, but it makes you happier individually.
Yes.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
Right.
The older swingers, so she gathered data.
Are you talking to me?
Not yet, but we're not far away.
Oh, okay.
So she kind of segregated the data between 55 and up, and then under 55.
We're way under 55.
Yeah, you keep dreaming, honey. We are, but we can.
Sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, never mind. So anyway, the older adults, so it's 55 and up, were happier and healthier than the general population.
Yes.
And I don't find that surprising, because if you're swinging, most swingers, I think, really want to take care of themselves. Not that we all need to look like Barbie dolls and Ken dolls, but, we need to be healthy because, let's face it, if you're not at least somewhat fit, I think it affects your sexual performance, your stamina,
right, exactly.
Your mobility, your flexibility,
absolutely.
and all of those things really enhance your sexual experience.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think swingers might be a little bit more motivated to stay a little bit, maybe
Yes.
not as like skinny, but healthy.
Yes.
Healthy.
Yep. I get that.
Consensually non-monogamous people practice safe sex much more consistently than the monogamous cheaters.
That's right. That's amazing.
I know.
But it makes sense.
It does make sense because we're eyes wide open.
Yes.
Going into this, and the monogamous cheaters just get drunk at a bar and go fuck somebody, and they don't even know that person's name.
Yep.
And then go home and tell their wife that they had a business meeting.
I like it when you say that word.
I know you do. So anyway, responsible promiscuity versus imperfect monogamy. That's what she kept comparing. Responsible promiscuity versus imperfect monogamy. Because she said, really, we're not designed to be monogamous.
Right.
I kind of agree with that, but I disagree with it. As far as monogamous goes, I think there's two types of monogamy. There's like the physical, sexual monogamy, but then I think there's the emotional monogamy.
Right.
I think I'm very wired to be emotionally monogamous.
Yes. That's a good answer.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm not just saying that because I'm sitting here staring at the love of my life. I mean,
Right.
I think that, that's what I need. I need that emotional monogamy with you. And that makes me feel
Right.
comfortable, safe,
Right.
confident
Right.
enough to share myself and you with somebody else.
And this just came to mind when you were saying that, but the emotional part of our relationship and the feelings that I have for you emotionally are, before there was almost an equality, not an equality, but having sex with you and having an emotional relationship with you from my point of view they were very similar. Now that I'm having sex with other people and you're having sex with other people, the emotional connection is elevated and that much stronger.
Right. Because I think it makes you appreciate what you have.
Exactly. And so, it really, when we talk about it enhancing the relationship, that in my mind is not something that I understood to begin with, but now that we've been in this for a while, I definitely know that I am so much more in tune with you emotionally because of this. And maybe we would have gotten there without it, but I kind of doubt it. Yeah. So.
Well, we wouldn't have known what we were missing,
right.
I guess. But, now I think in hindsight, I think we can see how far we've come.
Right.
As far as developing communication skills and just, I look at you through a different lens now.
Right.
Because I can watch a woman look at you. I mean, just like that gorgeous blonde lady on the cruise ship, we're not sure if they were swingers or not. I think they were. But, just the way that she was, because when she said you guys are a really attractive couple, she was looking at you when she said that, and I was like, you're damn right.
Yeah.
So the last thing I want to say about the notes on this consensual non-monogamy session is that I forget how the scale worked, but it was a scale out of 9. And she talked about monogamous people versus the swinger community as far as their issues with jealousy are concerned. And the monogamous community had a rating of 8 out of 9, so a very high rating of jealousy. It's feelings of jealousy when their other, partner, I guess, would be flirted with or whatever,
right.
Or they didn't trust them or whatever would cause that jealousy.
Right.
Where swingers only rated 5 out of 9.
Right.
So I think there's just a lot more trust because I think there's more openness in a consensual non-monogamous relationship.
Well, not only that, you've kissed somebody else, you've had, pretty intimate relations with other men, and yet you choose me again. So, over and over, it's proven to me that I have no reason to be jealous. And so if you've not experienced that, your imagination takes over.
Exactly.
So the idea of what could possibly happen clouds your sense of reality. So I totally get that. And that's the last thing you were going to mention.
Right.
Again, I just want to say that, please, go to our webpage and look at Dr. Zana's link, because I'll put a link directly to the presentation that she did, because there's so much more data and so many more interesting tidbits in this presentation that we don't have time to talk about. But it was a fascinating discussion.
Yep.
So the other thing that we want to talk about is a lot more kind of fun. And that was Cooper Beckett and J.V. Altheros had invited us to
a play party
later in the evening. And so we really
we all stayed up at the hotel where the conference was being held.
Right. And so we went to dinner, we went to the open bar with everyone, and then we went to one of the shows later on, which was good. And then it was past time for us to go to this play party. And so we went back to the room to get ready. And
I was nervous.
You were about to chicken out.
I didn't want to go. I mean, at one point I said, I don't think we should go.
And so we had ideas of like just people having this massive orgies all over the place and this stuff going on. And I said, honey, we're not going to get another opportunity to do this. We need to go up there and at least peek in the door and see what's going on. We were invited, we need to go take advantage of this. And so
I don't know. My mind was just like running wild.
Yeah.
I don't know what I thought was going to happen up there.
So we did. So, and I think you felt better as soon as we stepped off the elevator and you could hear all the noise coming from the end of the hallway. People were talking, it sounded like just a regular
I guess I
party.
thought I was going to walk into like a 30-person orgy or something.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. And it wasn't it was an oversized hotel room, but it wasn't a suite at all. So there were probably about 30 people crammed into this room. Well, there was a lot going on. There was and I'm not even sure how to explain it. There was a cuddle party going on.
A cuddle party.
There was
a Sybian.
There was a Sybian going, and the person who brought the Sybian was the person who was actually the vendor, promoting it. And she had brought the Sybian up, and she was, showing people how to use the Sybian. There was some flogging going on over on this side, and then there was some people sitting on the couch playing with sex toys, and all of that was going on at the same time. And we kind of walked into the doorway, and J.V. Altheros was standing there, and I hadn't really got a chance to talk to him. So he and I really enjoyed our conversation and get to know him a little bit with Ending the Sexual Dark Age. So initially we walked in and we felt much more comfortable because there were people that were just standing around mingling, but there was also all of this stuff, going on.
And there were a couple there that we had lunch with earlier that day.
Yes.
And actually one of the couples we had gone to dinner with, so the couple from Toronto.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was fun, being able to continue some conversations and get to know people better.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, while all this was going on, one of the reasons that we went to this, and we're going to talk about this in a future podcast, but not everybody there was like us. And so what we intentionally have to do in the lifestyle is when we're listening to podcasts and listening to other people or reading a book, everybody's going to have their own kind of what they like and what they don't like. And people have egos, and some people are activists, and some people, we try to overlook all of that and just kind of look at the people for who they are and pull as much information as we can out of it that's going to help our relationship. So there was a young lady who came up and joined our conversation. So 4 of us were talking. We were talking with the other couple from
New England.
Yeah. And this 5th person came up, and she was polyamorous.
Mm-hmm.
And she started talking about polyamory, and I was fascinated because
Mr. Jones was kind of standing in the corner, just kind of taking it all in. And I thought, is he bored? Does he want to leave? But he was just kind of studying everything. And I was talking to this girl. I was baffled. I mean, because I don't understand it. I mean, she was very articulate. And what I really liked about this girl is that I was able to ask her questions and she wasn't offended.
Right.
She was actually very patient, explaining her motivations for being polyamorous and what she got out of it.
Right. So at a certain point in time, once the other couple left And I had listened to this woman talk. I said, okay, I said, if it's okay with you, I got to ask you a ton of questions. I said, I've been standing here listening to you, and I just want you to know that I have no ill will. I'm just ignorant, and I don't understand polyamory. And if you're willing to answer my questions, I just got a ton of questions. And she was like, shoot, ask me the questions. And really what it comes down to is the relationship that you and I have is so fulfilling and complete that it's hard for me to imagine having any sort of a relational need with another woman that I feel like I need to maintain on a regular basis. So polyamory to me is just completely foreign. I don't get it.
But she did an excellent job of explaining it to us. She said that there are different types of intimacy.
Right.
She said there were 5 different types. There was sexual intimacy, emotional intimacy, domestic intimacy, sexual intimacy. Did I already say that one?
Companionship was one of them.
And then like hobbies and common interests.
Yeah, right.
So she said she was married.
Right.
And her husband was her primary. We learned that your spouse does not have to be your primary partner in a polyamorous relationship, but her spouse was. Her spouse could fulfill 4 out of those 5 intimacies.
Right.
So she had 2 or 3. I don't know. 2 others. So 3 total. So she had 2 other partners to help her fulfill the needs, the intimate needs that she had that her spouse wasn't fulfilling.
Yeah, it was a matrix. It was like an equation.
Yeah.
And her primary, who happens to be her husband, filled out 4
out
of the 5.
Right.
But she also said, we've also talked about the idea that at some point in the future, he may not be my primary, but he's still going to be my husband. And
she was committed to being married to him forever.
Yeah. So there were a couple of things. So I learned a lot, and I appreciate her, being so honest with us.
She was very candid about, sharing.
And she was very sincere, and this wasn't, it wasn't phony. She really, she really believed and felt what she was feeling. A couple of things that bothered me about what she was saying is one time she said, I went and spent 2 or 3 days with my secondary partner because I just got irritated with my primary partner.
And I just needed to get away.
And when you're in a marriage like ours, when that happens, well, it's rough, but you don't run away. You work through it. And I think that's what we've done over the years. And the other thing is, if I only check off 3 out of the 5 boxes or 4 out of the 5 boxes over a period of time, we work on that 5th box so that I become a little bit better at meeting your needs. And once I understand what your needs are and I care about you the way that I do, I want to learn how to check that box. And so the type of relationship that we have, even though she did a good job of understanding it, it was kind of a cop out in a way for me that well, maybe not cop out's not the right word, but she uses polyamory as a way to fulfill herself without a lot of hard work. But on the other hand, I said, managing all this has just got to be emotionally draining. And she said, oh my gosh, it's terrible. So again, I just can't imagine that. I mean, I enjoyed the conversation and I learned a lot, but I just still can't understand.
Because we're not wired that way.
We're not wired that way. Right.
I mean, that's how she was wired. I mean, she fully believed everything she was saying.
Right.
And you're right. I felt like, and I did say to her at one point, I said, maybe the advantage that we had, talking about you and I had, is that we got married so young so that we were able to grow up together, so to speak, getting married in your early 20s.
Right.
And as we noticed that we had these needs for certain types of intimacy in our lives, we had to work together to fill those gaps in.
Right.
And meet those needs for each other. And I think that was maybe it was easier for us to do because we were so young when we got married.
Right.
We were still kind of
Right.
forming our own identities. So we were able to take our identities and mesh them together as we grew up and,
Right.
into mature adults.
Right.
And, maybe that's the difference. And I tried to explain that to her. And again, she respected what I had to say as well.
Right.
I didn't want to say, well, if you find the right guy, your right guy is going to meet all 5 needs. But actually, that's actually kind of how I feel. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
but I'm not polyamorous.
We've been at it for a while, though.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap this up. But if you have a chance, check out the CatalystCon website and check out the notes from Dr. Zana that we'll have on our website. I think you'll find them very interesting. And also, you can check out the Ending the Sexual Dark Age podcast that they did from there on the private gym. And
yeah, that was really interesting.
That
was a cool guy.
Yeah. So both of those podcasts I thought were very, very well done. So we'll be right back.
Okay, so our snapshots for this month. Man, we got so much to choose from. It was kind of hard to pick, but I guess I'll go first. So back to the house party and back to the guest bedroom with our awesome first sixsome.
Yes.
Oh, it was so awesome. Yep. I still can't believe
Sixsome is the new foursome.
Sixsome is definitely the new foursome. Wow. Yep. I thought I would be like really intimidated and overwhelmed.
Hey, I wonder what 8 would be like.
I don't know. We'll have to try it.
Oh, sorry.
Don't get carried away. So when does it become an orgy?
Let's not have that discussion. It doesn't matter. 6 was amazing. 7, 8.
That could be some listener feedback. When does it become an orgy? Yeah,
no,
let us know.
No.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It's just awesomeness, no matter.
Yes,
yeah,
it is. It is.
The numbers don't matter.
Right.
Just like size doesn't matter, right? Quality versus quantity.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so my snapshot. So it was an awesome sixsome, but like we told you, the couple that we met that night, they ended up going their own way. Towards the end of our little play party, they kind of drifted off. I don't know if they had to go home or if they went into another bedroom to have some little more privacy, or I don't know, but it ended up just being the couple that we've been friends with for a while and us in the bed. And we were not in really a huge hurry to accomplish anything. We were just kind of talking and joking around and playing and switching around, and it was kind of really relaxed at that point in time. And neither you or the other gentleman had finished yet, right?
Right.
Yeah. So we just kind of like flat out took a break.
Right.
And the other lady said, I have to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. So it was just the 4 of us, and she just gets up and leaves. And both of y'all were just kind of like still ready to go. And I'm looking around and I'm thinking, this is awesome. So I'm like, what's a girl to do? I have 2 guys that, need some attention. So I had one in each hand, and I was just kind of like keeping you all up to speed. I didn't want you guys to have to like start all over again.
You were fluffing us.
I was the fluffer all by my little old self.
Yeah.
It was awesome. The other gentleman is just as handsome as Mr. Jones. So I had these 2 incredibly handsome men in a bed with just little old me.
Yeah.
So yeah. That was an amazing snapshot.
So that's good. So that means you're like drifting towards that male, female.
I actually, that thought went through my mind when I was in the bed with you 2. It was, yeah, that thought went
a revelation.
Through my mind.
Yeah, do tell. I didn't know this. Okay, go on.
This darn microphone gets me in trouble. No, I don't know. Yeah, it was interesting. You've definitely planted a seed, let's say.
Okay, so then you were playing. You had one of us in each hand. What would have happened next, Mrs. Jones?
Well, Yeah, so she did come back from
No,
the
no, no, no,
bathroom.
no.
No.
In your fantasy,
In
when
my
you were thinking
fantasy?
about the male, female, male, what would have happened next?
Gosh, I don't know. There were just so many opportunities. I don't
Okay.
know.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent. I learned something. I'm getting a little bit uncomfortable. I forgot my snapshot. So, are you done?
Uh, yes, I'm done.
Okay. Anyway, mine is not sexy at all. I'm sorry. There were several sexy snapshots I could have come up with, but you're the one that came up with this idea about a snapshot, and I can't get this image out of my head.
I can't either,
And
actually.
so I have to share this as my snapshot. So people just behave in a weird way. Okay, at this dinner party, there are 20 couples. There are people, most people for the most part, we described the middle level of the house as where the drinks and the food was. Most people on that level would have clothes on, or, I'll tell you, the sexiest outfit I saw in a woman was a woman came downstairs with her husband's button-down shirt on and nothing else. I mean, that was perfect.
Yeah.
And then there was another lady that was walking around with just a garter on and nothing else. But, ladies can get away with that. This is what so there was a room, the dining room.
The dining room. They had a huge dining room table,
yeah.
and it was full of food.
Full of food. And
at 2:00 in the morning, that food is tasty.
Everybody except for one person had clothes on, and this man who didn't have clothes on, and he was rather hairy to begin with. And I see this guy. I can't get the image out of my mind. He's hairy, and he's staring at me because I made eye contact with him like, what are you doing? and he was just like, he didn't say this, but it was like, I'm naked and I can be naked in this house. And you can be naked in that house, but there's food on the table.
Keep your dick away from the deviled eggs.
And he had already been upstairs, so it was a used dick. I don't know what might have been dripping off of it.
Oh, gosh.
I couldn't, I lost my appetite. So
now I'm like gagging.
I know. So, and again, you need to, I think you need to take, now we're not experienced in this. This was our second house. You got to take your cue from the host and the hostess.
And she had a beautiful robe on.
She had a silk robe on that was thigh high.
Yep,
she looked beautiful.
Still very, very sexy.
And the guy had shorts on and a t-shirt. Yep. Okay. I mean, whatever, but they had clothes on.
Yep.
And there's the one guy who's leaning over the food with no clothes, and I just lost my appetite. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry that's my snapshot, but it was just, I can't get that image out of my mind, and now I'm passing it on to the rest of you so that you have to share my burden. So those were our snapshots for this for episode 8. Wow.
I'll make Mr. Jones come up with a sexy one for next month.
No, you need to give me the opportunity to.
Oh,
and you did.
Okay.
You did.
Yeah.
You
I
did. There was plenty of that.
But
This guy was, that I just could not help but to mention that. That's just.
You just saw 3 women having sex together.
Man.
And you have to pick the dick on the deviled eggs.
I was swinging over the deviled eggs. Yeah. Oh, man. Okay, so anyway, we're getting ready to close out here. The last thing that we want to talk about is lately we've been sharing feedback from questions that we've been getting from listeners, and one of the thing that we want to talk about now is we listen to the Curious Couple podcast, and we would recommend that if you don't listen to them.
Podcast.
Yeah, so their names are T and A. And in one of their episodes recently, A had mentioned, I wonder, and they were talking about our podcast, and I'm assuming that she was referring to us when she asked this question. But here, just take a listen to her ask this question.
But what if, say, 2.5 years ago, I wake up and I'm like, this isn't for me.
Well,
I made a mistake.
About that, yeah. We were like, oh, wait, this is, if either one of us gets wigged out, we'll pull the plug and we're both okay with it. Okay, yeah.
Well, and that's for me, that was a concern. I wonder if I'm sure it is the same concern for some of these couples that have been married for 30 years before they get into it. Do they think that? Do they think, because to me it was like, well, what if I did? And I never really got close to that, but the thought crossed my mind, what if I decided this wasn't for me? Would he leave me?
So, Mrs. Jones, could we pull the plug and disengage from the lifestyle and be happy?
Yes. That's so easy to answer.
Okay.
Yes. Because we were happy before we entered the lifestyle.
Right.
Nothing was missing in our relationship.
Right.
So if for whatever reason
Right.
we would decide that this wasn't for us anymore, I think we would be fine. We would have lots to look back on and laugh about, and some sexy times to fantasize about and reflect back on. But I think that we would be fine moving forward. I don't think that, and I think I think we're connected enough that we would be able to make that decision mutually.
Right.
Just like we don't take one for the team. I mean, we've run into that before, and there's been no hard feelings.
Right.
So I think this would be the exact same thing. If one of us said, I don't think we should do this anymore for whatever reason, if there was something going on with our family or maybe a health issue or
Right.
whatever it would be, I think we have enough going on in our life outside of this
Right.
that we could still have fun, like the vanilla cruise.
Yes.
I know you really kind of maybe wanted to mess around with that couple from Long Island a little bit more than we did, but we had so much fun with them.
Yep.
And yeah, we did tell them some sexy stories about desire and, being clothing optional and that kind of stuff. But, we never even really entertained the idea of trying to play with them or whatever. And we had an incredibly wonderful time.
Yes.
So
you say yes.
And he, you all have heard Mr. Jones complain about the stupid vanilla cruise, right? He was the one that wanted to go down to the future cruise desk and book the next cruise for next spring break while we were on the ship. That was his idea. So when you hear him bitch about this vanilla cruise this time next year, just go poo, poo, poo.
Right.
So what do you think?
Well, I'm going to be a little bit wishy-washy on this. I think if you have to get out, like you said, if there's a health reason or if there's a jealousy issue or something like that, yes, we could get out and we can continue to live. I have no doubt about that.
Well, not live, but live and be happy.
Live and be happy,
and
right?
Fulfilled.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. But here's the thing that I've learned recently, especially on this vanilla cruise. When that tall blonde and her husband came up to us and said, "What an attractive couple we are," we're different. We are different now. We carry ourselves differently. We that's never happened in 30 years of marriage. We've been on a lot of cruises. That has never happened to us before.
Actually, you're right. You're right.
So we are much more comfortable. We're much more confident as a couple. I don't know that we would ever get out of the lifestyle. If we chose to let's get rid of our Cassidy profile and our SLS profile, not going into house parties or whatever, I still think if we send out this vibe now that we are so comfortable with ourselves that other people pick up on that and would engage with us, and we're probably always going to be in the lifestyle from a certain aspect. So I think the lifestyle has changed us. It's made us individually more confident and outgoing, and as a couple, and I think that attractiveness comes through to other people. So whether we choose to get in and out of it, I think other people are going to see that in us and be attracted to that, and it'll always be a part of who we are. But could we get out and be happy? Absolutely. And, I have to say, I mean, there's a podcast that we listen to, and the long and short of it is he tells his wife that, yes, we could get out of this, but you'd have to live with somebody who's just not going to be as happy as he could be for the rest of his life. And I think that's sad. That's so kind of unhealthy.
Right.
And so
it's unbalanced.
Exactly. So yes, we could choose to get out of that. Fortunately, we're having a blast and we don't want to do that. But I've seen so much of a change in myself, and it's not just the weekend, and it's not just at house parties. it's every day during the week. It's at work. It's in social events and vanilla events. I find myself making eye contact with women and appreciating women and talking with them more. And so that part of the lifestyle is a part of me now, and it will always be. So that's how I'm going to choose to answer that question.
Good answer, honey.
Okay. So having said that, we would, first of all, we are getting some, just the feedback that we're getting from you all is amazing, especially the people who are just discovering us. And we certainly appreciate that. So we're going to ask you, we're going to put it out there. What do you think? Do you think you could just pull the plug on the lifestyle, and would you be happy? Or have you done that? And maybe you're sitting on the sidelines now and you're just listening to podcasts. Let us know if you've done that and how it's worked. And we'll look at that feedback and we'll share it on the next episode with your permission. So, keep the feedback coming. We want to hear what you have to say about that. So shout outs. I've got a couple. We've got a few more reviews on iTunes, and I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to do that. That's, I'm not going to beg. We're not that type of people. But if you feel led to, leave us a review on iTunes, we certainly appreciate that. And I know that you wanted to throw out a shout out.
So, y'all know that we went to Naughty New Orleans last summer, and we went as part of the Swingercast group, who, again, awesome podcast. They had taken a little bit of time off, but now they're back up and running, and John and Allie are putting out podcasts on a regular basis again. So they just recently put out a podcast on their trip to Naughty New Orleans last summer. And we told you all about the amazing playrooms on the third floor and how well done this whole event was. And they were, you really need to go and listen to this podcast on their Naughty New Orleans podcast. It's just been recently put out. And they do such a good job of telling the story of the last night in the playroom, about this couple that they played with, and just what an amazing experience it was. And they knew we were on the bed next to them with another couple. And so that was kind of cool, knowing that, they had friends on the bed next to them. We didn't end up playing with them, but just kind of just that intimate, closeness of being on the same bed. Well, there was a couple in the same room. I think there were like 5 beds in that room.
There were 2 couples.
So there were 2 couples on one bed in kind of the middle of the room next to...
They were really young.
John and Allie. Well, the girls were young.
Oh, yeah.
The guys were not young.
The girls might have been on the payroll.
Yeah, maybe so. They were talking about glittery fingernail polish at one point. And then in John and Allie's, on their podcast, they were reflecting back, and they said they remembered them talking about something about war, and they couldn't remember what it was, but it had to do with war. Well, I said, I'm listening to this podcast, first of all, on the airplane on the way to Miami for our cruise a couple weeks ago. So I am giggling out loud. I'm one of those obnoxious people with the headphones on, and I'm laughing out loud on the airplane, listening to him recount the story of these doofy girls talking loudly about glittery fingernail polish and war on their podcast. So I'm like, I wanted to yell out, they were talking about Russian tanks. They were talking about Russian tanks, because that's what they were talking about.
I know.
Why the hell they were talking about Russian tanks after they finished fucking in a playroom at 2:00 in the morning.
Right.
I have no idea, but that's what they were talking about.
Yeah, John did a good job of describing that. And when we talked about Naughty New Orleans, we didn't mention that it was Allie and John that were on the bed next to us. But so anyway, if you put our podcast story about Naughty New Orleans together with theirs, that gives you a complete picture of what it was. And I tweeted to him that it was Russian tanks. Yeah. And he said, thanks a lot, for
thanks
that.
A lot for the information.
Thanks a lot for that. So anyway, take a listen to that. So the other thing I wanted to mention before we go is we had a little bit of a technical difficulty with our website, and it was frustrating for me because it happened when we went on our cruise and I didn't have connectivity to get back in and try to diagnose things and fix it. But
he was stressing, let me tell you. He was stressing.
I was so stressed out because I take pride in all of that. And thank you to the listeners who sent me comments on our website, and more importantly, emails to tell me iTunes wasn't loading episode 7. And based on the feedback that I got, when I got back home, I realized I had blamed it on iTunes, and it wasn't iTunes. It was my fault. The long and short of it is one of the parts of our website plugins had updated and it turned itself off, and I didn't turn it back on. But anyway, that's not important. The important thing is I got home and I realized what I had done and I fixed it. So anyway, I apologize for that, but thank you. And if any of you ever notice anything that doesn't look right or needs to be corrected or is not working, please send me an email to, wegotathing@gmail.com, because I am the only two eyes. I don't have a technical staff. So if something's not working right for you, please let me know, and I'll look at it right away and try to get it fixed. So it was a little bit stressful for me because we realized that the day we left on our cruise, and I only had an iPad, and we had no connectivity basically the whole week. And I was so upset because I couldn't go in to figure out what was wrong.
Yep.
So anyway, thank you for being patient while we get that fixed. And I think it looks like everything is up and running now because the downloads started back up again. And I wanted to apologize for that. But anyway, we told you.
He says he's a real podcaster now because he's had technical difficulties.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I do feel that way. We told you this was going to be a long episode, and we will try not to make them this long in the future, but we had just had so much happen in the past month, and so much to talk about, and we felt it important to get it all out there. So thank you for being patient with us and bearing with us. So if you want to contact us, the best way is through email at wegotathing@gmail.com. Our website is wegotathing.com. And I threw out a challenge last month for some of you to join Twitter, and some of you did.
Yeah.
And so if you want to really keep up and converse with us on a daily basis or a weekly basis, you can follow us at We Got a Thing. And Twitter, I feel so much more comfortable with Twitter than I do with Facebook. I don't trust Facebook and some of the privacy settings. They seem to change them at will. But anyway, if you're not Twitter savvy, set up a personal account, and it's easy to stay anonymous and just follow us at We Got a Thing. So that's how you can contact us. Did I miss anything, Mrs. Jones?
I think we have said plenty this time.
Yeah, I think so too. So we will be back at the end of May. We've got a couple of things coming up. We have a private party.
We do. Pretty exciting.
Kind of
it's pretty very upscale
party in May that we're going to be able to podcast about at the end of May, and we've got a Myrtle Beach trip coming up, and a couple of dates between now and then. So I think we'll have enough to talk about.
Definitely.
When we get to episode 9. So thanks for listening, and we are Mr. and Mrs. Jones, and We Got a Thing.
What's your thing?
And he's standing at the table, leaning over, and his dick is swinging back over the deviled eggs. And I can't, I for the life of me, I just lose my appetite.